Excel is a great tool if you're one or two persons working a very complex spreadsheet with 20 tabs and you have a lot of formulas and it's really complex business logic. That is one kind of use case. But if you have 20 or 50 or 300 managers out in the organization that's going to do a sales forecasting with driver-based kind of quantities and prices, and that's going to drive your top-line revenue in the P&L statement, and that's going to flush into the cash flow forecast. If you're going to work with a lot of people, still maybe complex calculations, but not really what...
Before we start today's episode, I want to address a common challenge I have observed with FP&A professionals. While Excel skills are abundant, many are not fully tapping into Power BI's capabilities to enhance their financial analysis skills. With over a decade of experience in FP&A consulting and countless training sessions conducted, my most loved training by FP&A professionals, hands down, has been my Introduction to Power BI for Financial Analysts. So, for my loyal podcast listeners, I am giving you free access to it today. Check out the link in the description below to upgrade your FP&A skills today. Thank you. Hi and welcome Erik Lidman to the show. I don't think you need a lot of introduction. Most people on LinkedIn definitely have heard about you. So to the listeners, we have Erik Lidman with us. He is the founder and director and CEO of Aimplan. Aimplan is a Power BI, a CPM tool embedded within Power BI. And I'm sure Erik will tell us a little bit more about it. So thank you so much, Erik, for coming to the show on FP&A Unboxed.
Thank you, Tejas. It's a pleasure to join the podcast. So yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's fantastic to be here.
First of all, Erik, as you were talking previously, right, you've been in the CPM space for almost 29 years. Tell us a little bit about that, right? I mean, 29 years in the CPM space, you have now landed with basically Power BI and Aimplan. Yeah. So talk us through the journey, because you've done a few other BizView and few other CPMs as well. So tell us a bit more about the journey.
That's correct. Yeah, this morning before this podcast, I counted kind of how many years I been in this area, and came up with 29 years, which is kind of a big number. I have always been the youngest person in the room, but nowadays I'm starting to become the oldest one in the room, unfortunately. So. But I've been working, I come from a finance background, but I have always worked with tech related to finance. So I started off as a management consulting, working with, in the mid-late 90s, it was all about balanced scorecard and breaking down strategy. And I worked for many, many years with activity-based costing and building costing models, also for big companies like Barclays Bank and Pfizer in the United States and so on. So everything that has to do with customer product and customer profitability has been kind of where I came from. Then in 2012, I joined a company called BizView. This was one of the leading kind of vendors regarding planning and budgeting and financial reporting here in Scandinavia. I forgot to say that I'm located in Sweden, actually in the northern part of Sweden, in a town called Skellefteå, where it's normally very dark during the winter time and we have snowmobile and everything. But now during summertime, it's very light, almost 24 hours a day. But anyhow, I worked with BizView for until 2020, when it was sold to an American company. Worked for this American company during the COVID period, and then we just felt that let's build something totally new. So that is when we started in May 2022. We started kind of the Aimplan journey.
Perfect. So, but what made you choose Power BI as your starting platform, right? And how long did it, to be honest, now this just come to me. How long does it take to create a CPM from scratch? I mean, I always thought it will take like 5 years, 10 years to get there.
Yeah. So we have built another CPM, FP&A financial reporting and planning tool before. So we knew all the features and everything that's kind of the finance organizations, what they normally look for. So, but we wanted to build something for Power BI. And why did we select Power BI? Well, we see that Power BI is a really great tool for bringing data out from a lot of different systems, not only the accounting systems, but also other kind of data sources. And it's a good platform for not only doing data analytics, but also for reporting. But what we see when Power BI is used within the office of the CFO is that you're missing kind of the budgeting, planning, and forecasting capabilities, and a lot of other things that you expect from an FP&A software. So the idea was to bring the leading kind of data analytics tool, Power BI, which has, I think it's now around close to 400,000 companies around the world running Power BI. So it really has grown very fast from 2015 when it was released. So we decided to select the Power BI platform and kind of make a bet that we can extend how Power BI can be used within organizations.
Yeah, no, that sounds quite exciting, right? Because I know, I mean, as you are very well aware, I'm a big fan of Power BI myself. So when you put in the commenting ability in Power BI or CPM ability in Power BI, it makes a world of a difference.
Yeah, and if you think about a company today, take any company in the world, I mean, from a finance reporting and budgeting and planning perspective, we have kind of a few different alternatives. Either you work with spreadsheets. A lot of companies still rely on spreadsheets and cumbersome manual processes for planning and reporting. The second stage is that you actually buy into one of the FP&A tools out there. We think that there are around 150 different tools in the market globally. And those tools are really good, the Aimplan and the Hyperions and down to Excel, all of these kind of FP&A tools. The challenge is that at the same time, many organizations are investing in Power BI, bringing sales data, production data, operational data, and financial data into Power BI. Why not leverage that platform also for the financial planning and reporting? That is kind of our bet. So that is why our vision is to extend the usage of Power BI also into finance in more depth.
Oh, that sounds actually wonderful, right? I mean, because then you can, one of the key things I always find challenging with Power BI is you can't do commentary in Power BI, not directly at least. Yes, you can go via Power Apps into blah, blah, blah. But instead of that, I mean, with Aimplan, it just becomes much, much easier and much more user-friendly. So
Good.
leveraging Power BI in finance and outside, right? And also in a controllership environment. So how does one get started with Power BI in that kind of outside that's purely dashboarding space to a larger finance organization and then across the business?
I think many organizations, as I said, are already working with Power BI, maybe not within finance, but in other parts of the organization. But what I think is really, I mean, the success of Power BI has been that it's so easy to get going. And especially if you know kind of Excel and spreadsheets, if you know that, you can actually take the next step into Power BI is really simple, I think. If I'm a controller, for example, within a company, because Power BI desktop is free. You just download it and you install it on your local machine. If you know pivot tables in Excel, you know how to use Power Query in Excel to get data from other systems. It's very similar to those two technologies. You just use Power Query also within Power BI to bring data into Power BI. And then you build kind of matrix reports or charts and beautiful reports and dashboards within Power BI. And everything is free. That's great with Power BI. But as soon as you want to publish these reports to a bigger audience within your organization, then you need Power BI Service, which is the paid version. But many companies already have licenses for Power BI, so just use that.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, reality is people, I don't know if you have found this, I found this all the time. People don't even know that they have Power BI because they're paying as part of their Microsoft license, but they don't even know that they're paying for Power BI as well. They're just not using it.
Sure. And also I would recommend Microsoft have free training sessions called Dashboard in a Day. So if you just Google Dashboard in a Day, you will find trainings online, which are really good to get going. So really easy to get going, at least to build the kind of the basic stuffs.
Yeah, no, definitely. Absolutely. So why does an organization, according to you, need a EPM solution or a CPM solution? Again, right? And how does one go about selecting one?
It's, I mean, companies have kind of different strategies. Some organizations are very ERP-centric or accounting system-centric, and they try to do everything inside their transactional system. And for sure, that is fine. But what we have seen kind of the last 30 years, I've been working in this space, is that those tools, kind of the ERP systems, are not kind of EPM or CPM tools. They are not built for those kind of things. So instead, companies invest in separate kind of EPM tools or CPM. I mean, there are so many acronyms for the same thing. It has been called a lot of different things over the years. But what we're actually talking about is kind of budgeting, planning, forecast, setting the targets maybe once a year, and then you have the ongoing forecasting process. Then you have the reporting process, all of these kind of things that you want to do from the office of the CFO, kind of how to get going. There are kind of three things. First of all, you need to understand the requirements. What would you like to achieve, and how should that look, and how would it work? Setting up the requirements that you have. Second one is to look at your own organization, both inside of finance, but also see that there are other departments out there. For example, you might have your own BI team, for example, working with Tableau or Click or Power BI, which you can actually collaborate with because they're good at data, but also internally. And then if you have the competence for a specific tool and technology, that's for sure an advantage. You know the requirements, but you also need to consider your IT landscape, because if you're going to buy an EPM tool, you need to discuss that probably with your IT department or head of IT. So if you're a Google shop, then it's probably some kind of Google technology or an EPM tool that is not really connected to that one. If you're in the Microsoft world, normally the IT department wants you to run Microsoft stuff. So what are your kind of key takeaways?
I think one of the things that you touched base, right, is about requirement gathering. I think that is where most businesses fail when they're doing CPM. Because the reality is, I have seen move far too often, they select a CPM tool because they had that in their last job. Okay. But your last job and this job are two different jobs.
Yeah.
They are two different businesses. They are two different companies. They are two different levels of maturity. Most likely different product offering or service offering. I mean, but people psychologically, because, oh, I had, say, for example, Aimplan, or I had whatever in my last job, I want the same thing here. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You are trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It won't fit. And then they wonder, oh, why is the transformation failing? Of course it's failing. It won't work. It doesn't fit. You need to do a bottom-up requirement gathering and things like that. In my world, yes, IT is important and things like that. But if you don't get your requirement gathering done, I think requirement gathering, sorry, but it serves two purposes. One is, yes, you understand what the business wants, but B, and more importantly, in my world, it helps get buy-in from the business, because they provided the requirements. Now, when you deliver on those requirements, they're like, yeah, okay, I said I wanted this. Now they are giving it to me, so I might as well use it. Otherwise, for user acceptance, I'm sure you've experienced many times as well. User acceptance is a challenge. So to overcome that, more engagement from the start, I think, is very, very important.
I also see that, as you said, if you have been working with Aimplan in another company, then you come to a new company. I mean, maybe there is a good fit. I mean, Aimplan is a great tool. But what we see is people coming from enterprises, organization that start to work with mid-sized companies. They are investing in technology that is built for the enterprise market. So it gets too heavy, too complex, and you need to buy a lot of consulting services for many, many years, it's just too heavy, not enough dynamic for the mid-size company. So I think buying the right, I mean, everything is, when you have a hammer, not everything is a nail. So, I mean, it's, or the other way around.
Yeah, no, exactly, right? So again, and I get, as a consultant as well, I get asked this question all the time. They're like, yeah, but will this tool last me for a long time? No, it won't. I think I'm only one of the rare people who bluntly says, no, it won't. Get real. Okay. When you started your business, okay, you were okay in zero. Then you went to, say, QuickBooks or SAP or Sage or something, right? Then you went to Navision or something, and then you went to, SAP or Oracle or, I don't know, Dynamics or something like that. Did your ERP remain the same, right? Show me one company for 20 years, they have the same ERP. Okay. 90% of businesses change ERP every 3 to 5 years, 6 years. So why do you think your EPM will remain the same, my friend? I mean, how? I mean, how does that work? Explain to me. It's the same answer, right?
Yeah. If you stick to Excel, you can use the same tool forever.
Yeah, And
No.
you will be surprised. I have worked and at least spoken to businesses which are 500 million, 800 million, billion plus. And last week I was speaking to somebody. They work in a 900 million company. They have a CPM. I'm not going to name it, but they have a CPM. But because it is not implemented correctly and it is now not fit for the size of the organization, 90% of the work is still done in Excel. So they are paying the license fee for the CPM. They're struggling with Excel, and they're just hobbling along. And I'm like, I don't know enough of words. I'm like, what am I going to tell you anymore? Don't even know what to say anymore.
Sometimes we ask the question, do you compete with Excel? And I said, no, not really, because there are kind of two different use cases. I mean, Excel, I normally tell the story like this. Excel is a great tool if you're one or two persons working a very complex spreadsheet with 20 tabs and you have a lot of formulas and it's really complex business logic. That is one kind of use case. But if you have 20 or 50 or 300 managers out in the organization that's going to do a sales forecasting with driver-based kind of quantities and prices, and that's going to drive your top-line revenue in the P&L statement, and that's going to flush into the cash flow forecast. If you're going to work with a lot of people, still maybe complex calculations, but not really what you normally build inside your spreadsheets, then I think you're going to work with a lot of people. Excel is not the right tool. Then you should have a web-based solution. And just to tell a funny story, we had, in sales meeting, you have this kind of web meetings and you have a lot of people, you have controllers, you had the CFO there. And then after kind of 1 hour of seeing Aimplan, how you can do budgeting, planning, forecasting in the web browser inside of Power BI and combine it with your actions and so on, the CFO kind of raised his hand and said, well, but the most important thing is is it possible to copy and paste data from Excel into this tool? And I said, yes, but that's not the idea. The idea is that all your managers should actually work within this tool live. So I asked...
You say that, but honest answer is we implement Aimplan, we implement Pigment, we implement a few things, right? Even when they're paying north of say 100, 200, 500K as license fees for Aimplan or Pigment or things like that, yeah, all of that is fine. Can I copy paste this in Excel?
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you paying literally hundreds of thousands of pounds and then more hundreds of thousands of pounds on consulting fees if you're just going to copy paste in Excel? It defeats the damn purpose, right? Therefore, lots of times, actually, for a very long time, I don't even show like my customers, I don't even show them that you can connect Power BI to Excel and you can make a Power Pivot. I don't show them that because if I show them that, they will stop using the dashboard. They will go and back into Excel and they will make their own versions of the truth. Because once it goes back into Excel, you can copy paste it or add, subtract numbers. You can do manipulations to the. How do I know what you've got in there, man? I can't trust that number. It's so funny. It is genuinely so funny when people basically spend hundreds of thousands of millions of pounds and then what do they want to do? Copy paste in Excel. I'm like, seriously. But again, I respectfully disagree. The only element where is I don't even think Excel is good for even 1-2 people modeling. Okay, very frankly speaking, if you have a complex model, put it in a system. Because yes, you build a complex model in Excel, two of you understand it. Okay, respectfully, nobody is married to the company. Okay, when you leave, what the hell is going to happen? Nobody except you to understand the model. You left the door, and now the business is it's a actual business continuity risk. I had a customer. They had basically a billing team of 2 people. They were doing every billing records were being managed in Excel. Okay, of at what stage they're billing what, blah blah blah. Those people left. They literally took 4 months to recover what was being done, put structure around it, and then put it in a system. 4 months, they were not able to invoice their customers correctly, book revenue correctly. I'm like, is that not business continuity risk, or am I the only one gone crazy?
No, it's absolutely a risk to not having a proper system in place. And also with the documentation, the processes around it. It's not only the tool. It's more than that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So how do you select then? We went through how do we select an FP&A tool, right? So use cases. Can you tell us a story or two? Come on, 29 years in CPM space. A couple of stories which either give you goosebumps or give you, laughs today of CPM implementation which have gone sideways.
The project's going sideways. I mean, normally it's not about the tool. It doesn't matter if it's kind of whatever tool it is. It's kind of the project, understanding the requirements and the process and the people that's going to run these systems moving forward. What I see is that if you have kind of really good use cases when it comes kind of things that the organization is missing today or is not working good, if you can understand those and translate that into a really good solution. And what we see when we are working with partners, so they are actually now doing the implementations. We are a software and SaaS vendor. But when I talk to them, when I talk with customers, I see kind of three scenarios where an EPM tool fits very well. First of all is kind of the automated financial reporting perspective. It's not only kind of producing a report once in a spreadsheet like a pivot thing, but it's kind of building a structured report, having this available to the managers, being able to commenting on this, having approval processes, bringing this data together, also with operational measures. Now we talked a lot about the finance side of things, but there are so much more than just the financials. But automated financial reporting is one thing. The second one is for sure budgeting and forecasting. And many people see that budgeting and forecasting is kind of the same thing, but it's not. And do you remember the Beyond Budgeting movement, 1998, 1999 there? I was actually part of that one together with Robin Fraser and a few other people. I was doing CIMA courses in London when I was kind of 22 years old or something like that. But there we talked very much about kind of the need for changing the budgeting and planning process. So budget is all about kind of setting targets. It's a negotiated process, and it's not only the financial measures, not only sales and costs and so on. There are a lot of other things in the kind of target setting, or should at least be much more than just the financial and target setting process. And the forecasting side of things is kind of what is the best guess? What do we believe? Trying to figure out, capturing data from the front line of the organization. So budgeting and forecasting, how to do that on an ongoing basis, kind of continuously every month or even faster than every month, kind of is the second good use case for an EPM tool. So we talked about automated financial reporting, budgeting and forecasting. And then we have the third use case, which I think it's kind of halfway outside of finance. And it's really difficult to pinpoint where it fits in the organization. But that is SOP planning, sales and operation planning. And normally it's not driven by finance even. It's driven by supply chain or kind of production or manufacturing. That is about, we have, for example, one of our customers, they are selling bread across Scandinavia. They have a lot of different sorts of breads and they have 2 bakeries. So they have their sales organization figuring out week by week how much every kind of grocery store will sell of their bread, and they have different campaigns coordinating this with marketing. And then they need to translate that. If we're going to sell this amount of bread per week, the coming kind of 12 weeks, how much do we need to produce? And they sell bread as pieces or pallets of bread, but they produce in tons. So they need to be able to translate this into how much would they need to produce, and also to kind of manage their inventory levels. Sometimes they want to build inventory because this customer is using all their bread are frozen. So it's always kind of fresh, but the first thing that happens is that they freeze it. So managing that planning process kind of from sales, driving kind of how much do we need to produce and how much do they need to purchase from their supplier and also the inventory levels and coordinate it across the different functions. That is a typical kind of sales and operation SOP planning scenario. But that is sometimes driven by finance, but other times it's not actually finance. What do you see, kind of comments?
Yeah, look, I mean, use cases, you're absolutely right. I think another use case I'd like to add is headcount planning. So yes, it does fall within your forecast and budgeting process.
Yeah.
But I think headcount planning deserves voice of its own in my world,
Yeah.
because respectfully, not 29 years, but 22 years in FP&A, I have worked in multiple organizations. I am yet to find an organization which can tell me we have 20,351 people working in our organization this month. Okay. Not a single organization I have ever worked with can tell me a headcount number by month, and not just big organizations, small organizations. Total organization is like what, 50 million, 20 million. In a 20 million organization also, they can't tell me how many people they have. I'm like, doesn't that sound wrong? Who are you paying? Right? You're paying people salary. Who are you paying? It has happened. I mean, I have seen people getting paid for almost a year after they left because somebody forgot to take them off. And then you are trying to go to them and ask for the money back, or you're going to go legal with it and things like that. Now, okay, but it's unacceptable. I mean, it's absolutely just unacceptable, full stop.
Yeah, and you have also this kind of HR planning that HR normally is doing, kind of the up-ramp periods and what kind of competence you want to have in place and so on. So if that's the fourth, then I have a fifth, and that is also project-related business. Or if you have a project office and you have a lot of projects going on and you need to manage both hours and costs across these projects with a lot of project leaders out there. And the challenge there is exactly this. You get your actuals flowing in on these projects and sometimes also booked on different activities that you have planned in the planning process. So you get that flowing in on an ongoing basis. But at the same time, you need your project leaders to, on an ongoing basis, every week kind of forecast and update their forecasts every week to get the current project forecast. And the problem with this, if you do it in Excel, is that the project budget is fine to do it in Excel. The kind of updating a project forecast once is okay. But if you need to match kind of the actuals flowing in from both time reporting systems and accounting system, it can also be purchase orders. If you need to match that with kind of know what is actuals and what is projected cost and revenues or hours, that is the trick. So there is also a good use case.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely think so. I mean, and in fact, I think project accounting doesn't get enough importance that it should, because on the FP&A side, we care about it. But on the controllership side, they don't. They are like, we don't care. As long as my statutory legal entity accounts are fine, everything else can go where they want to go. And that is the bridge that needs to be really covered, because again, project accounting can be so much more insightful and you can actually drive decision making out of it but again, rubbish in, rubbish out, right? So if you account for it correctly, then you can make so much interesting conversations out of it.
And it's big money. I mean, I've been working with a paper mill company and kind of just their maintenance project. They have kind of 25 project leaders just planning and forecasting their maintenance project of this one piece of big thing that need to be maintained over many years. It's a lot of work.
No, definitely. I mean, it's big money investment as well. Most projects are qualified as projects only because there's big money involved in it. So, like, seriously, to not track it should be a crime, to be honest. So, Fabric, OneLake, and Power BI. Recently you went to the US. You got involved in Microsoft Fabric's, event and things like that. So, tell us a bit more about that. How was your experience? What do you think is exciting about Fabric and Power BI and things like that? And what do you see as the future?
So first of all, yeah, it was a great event at FabCon in Las Vegas. A lot of people. It was 6,500 people interested in Power BI at the place, and it was kind of I never seen anything like it. A lot of interest also in talking with people, talking with us about what we were doing. The first day, we were 4 people there, and we had 4 queues of people at our booth that wanted to talk to us for 6 hours. We were totally exhausted after the first day. But let's take this from a business perspective first, because we can talk about the IT side of things also. But Microsoft is working on something called Microsoft Fabric, and that's actually a collection of some old technology, or not old, but kind of technology that they have been running for many years, and some new stuff. But the objective of Microsoft Fabric is to bring data together. So if you think about, you have all your operational systems in the back end, you have your ERP, you have your CRM, you have your manufacturing, you have all of your systems running there. So the idea is to bring this data together into what's called the one lake inside of Fabric. There you also have a lot of other technologies with kind of AI and machine learning. You have Power BI, which is actually now a part of Fabric. There is no thing kind of Power BI only. It's actually part of the product family of Fabric. So the vision is to have Fabric and One Lake as kind of bringing all your data together in the cloud, in the Microsoft kind of Fabric environment. And that includes for sure operational and sales data. I mean, normally when you invest in a BI tool, many times you start with the sales data, because that's the most maybe important things you have. So you start to bring in your sales data and maybe your operational production data, and you bring in your procurement data and so on. But you should also bring in your financial data into One Lake. I mean, that's kind of central data that you have kind of available in your accounting system. It should be part and together with all your other data stored in a structured way in this One Lake environment. And this has become really kind of, if your organization is running Microsoft technology, then One Lake and Fabric is kind of what a lot of companies right now are moving to. I don't know what you see when you talk to.
It's a good point. I was going to ask you though, basically, if you take even a step back, do you still find organizations that they don't even want to invest in a data warehouse or a data lake of any sort? What are your advice for them?
So there are all kinds of companies. Some of them are very ERP focused. So the ERP is just everything should happen in the ERP system. But for people that have been working with data warehousing or kind of bringing data together in the warehouse, the Fabric is kind of a very similar thing, but you have the data in a data lake called One Lake that you have inside of Fabric. So we see a lot of companies moving into that direction from an IT perspective. And then if you talk from a finance perspective, kind of office of the CFO, having also the financial data together with all other operational data, I think it makes sense, because then you can do reporting on everything there.
Yeah, no, so you're asking me a perspective. The reality is I keep telling people, and respectfully, but almost shouting at people, that they don't understand that they don't own their data. Okay, I'm going to say this one more time, probably till basically my face goes blue. People don't understand you don't own your data. Okay, the minute you change, even if you are an ERP centric business, okay, you've got, say for example, SAP, right? You love SAP, you've got everything in SAP, all modules are implemented, SNOP is implemented, inventory management is implemented, HR headcount management is implemented, full family is implemented. Okay, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Now you feel I have outgrown SAP, I want to leave SAP, I want to, I don't know, go and do Dynamics, go and do Oracle, something like that. Okay, do you realize that you will lose all your data from SAP and you cannot migrate it across? Yes, all your implementation partners will say, yeah, we will implement, we'll bring everything across. What they really mean is they will bring your metadata across and they will bring your GL balances across. Okay, nobody is bringing your transaction level detail across. Literally nobody is. And now you've lost all your transaction level detail for all your vendors, all your customers, all your inventory, SKUs, everything you've lost for last 5 years, 7 years. And this is not just me getting overly passionate about it. I have had at least 4 to 6 customers basically having lost data like this. And I'm giving an example of ERP. Same with CPM, same with headcount management software, same with project management software. Respectfully, any SaaS solution that you are using, the minute you switch it off, you're going to lose access to it. Okay? They will make it a nightmare for you to get data out of it. So it is better to you own that data warehouse, and that will remain for a long time. And from moving data from Fabric to say Azure, or moving it from Fabric to even say AWS, that will not be a nightmare because you're copying tables across. Okay? Fundamental architecture is more or less same, similar, you'll be fine. But if you don't, in today's days and time, you don't learn to own your data, you are putting your business at absolute risk, is what I feel. Again, please tell me if I'm completely wrong.
I think it's a great long-term investment to collect your data and build a data warehouse or a lake house that is based on your structures that you have from a business perspective, not the structures that you have in your kind of current ERP system that you're running right now. And especially important if you talk kind of machine learning and AI, because then you need access to all of this data. If you have that in your transactional database under your ERP system or your CRM system, you really need to get that data out in a format which you can analyze and put your algorithm on top of.
Exactly. Now, again, people talk about AI and ML so much, right? But think, even if your ERP is providing you AI and ML, they may or may not be combining it with your SNOP, with your HR data, with your CRM data, in terms of how long does it take for your customer to be identified, proposals signed, converted, signed contract, delivery, blah, blah, blah. So pre-revenue, whatever work that goes in, it may not even look at all of that. But only if you put this data in a data warehouse, then you can train the machine learning and AI to look at all of this. And now see how realistic is my forecast, for example, right? Am I going to really hit these numbers, or am I just living in La La Land and things like that? I mean, it's just I cannot emphasize it enough. I think people don't get it.
And I think normally these kind of questions are driven by the kind of the IT and BI teams in organizations. But I think from a kind of CFO perspective, this is as important. I mean, the CFO is more or less also the chief data officer in one way. I mean, you really need to have control of not only your chart of account master data, but also your customers and products and sales channels and business processes and cost drivers and all of these kind of things that you should have control of. And there, I think working together with your business intelligence or data analytics team on bringing also the financial data into one lake is something that if you're in a Microsoft kind of run company, run using Microsoft technology, that's a natural kind of progression. And then you use Power BI as the data analytics tool, so you can have beautiful dashboards with Power BI. But for sure, then you need this budgeting, planning, forecasting, commenting, and good financial reporting inside of Power BI. And that is where Aimplan come into the picture, if I may do some commercials here.
No, that's fine, right? But exactly, but that thinking is what is missing. And again, finance needs to at least have a voice around this, even if they don't own it completely, from a risk perspective, right? Because most CFOs say, okay, we are the owners of the risk register of this business. We make sure business continuity planning is something which most CFOs own in most medium-sized to large-sized businesses. So under that risk management register, or basically business continuity planning activity, what happens if that SaaS business goes bust? Right? Okay, Microsoft is not going bust, but if say you use a smaller whatever software for your project planning or for your particular niche, what if that business goes away? What are you going to do? What about your data? How are you going to let go of all that information? Are you, like in today's days and time, people are all going gaga about data is the new oil and data is the new future. But do you know how to mine it? Do you know how to store it? Do you know how to take care of it? Otherwise, if I continue the oil analogy, otherwise it will basically, burn your house down because basically you don't know what the hell you're doing. Do you realize that? I mean, really, it is just so difficult, man. It's a very interesting conversation.
Sure.
Okay, I mean, I think we've almost come to 45 minutes, so I'm going to quickly use my last few minutes to my 3 standard questions, if you don't mind. Where do you think is the future of FP&A in 3 to 5 years? You're not allowed to say AI. Okay, we get AI. Okay, but what do you really think is the future of the FP&A function in next 3 to 5 years?
I think it will be more, the financial planning and analysis, FP&A is more than just the financial side of things. I think as a business controller or an FP&A, head of FP&A or kind of in that department, there is a lot more than just the financials. So, and to analyze not only the GL transactions and the AP and AR transactions and so on, you need to go out and look into data sources that you have outside of your kind of core finance system. So you need to be able to work with data. I think that's, I've seen some report talking about kind of the major challenge for the office of the CFO is the lack of competence or being able to get enough competence to work with data. But on the other hand, we see a lot of good promise. We have customers where you look into the office of the CFO or kind of the FP&A department, and they have kind of data analysts. They are finance people. I mean, they know debit and credit and all of the consolidations and financial reporting, all of this stuff. But they also know how to connect to the table in your accounting system using Power Query or kind of bringing data together, matching different tables and building relations and these kind of things. So there is good hope, I think.
Yeah, no, I have at least spoken to 2 heads of FP&A who by org structure have got 4 data analysts in their team and 3 business partners. And they are very, very clear. The 4 data analysts provide all data. Basically, the business partners take that data to the business to make decision making, build relationships, get insights and things like that. Literally the way, I mean, again, if I'm going to use the analogy again, it's like the data analysts are the chefs in the kitchen, and basically the business partners are basically the staff who then takes that well-made dishes to the customers within the business to feed them and make sure that they are happy, so that they leave them a good tip. Basically, if that almost makes sense, right? But it's there. It's already there today, I think, and it's going to be more of it, not less. What is one thing that FP&A functions need help with today to become better strategic finance business partners?
Oh, this is heavy questions, They need help with today. I mean, working within the tech side of things, and I think master data management and data quality is something that is really a challenge for most companies. And as I said before, is that, I mean, a CFO normally know the chart of accounts very well and make sure that they have really control of kind of the chart of accounts. And then you come to the next dimension, your cost center, your organizational structure. There you have pretty good control, at least kind of the current structure. And then you have the next year and then you need to work with twice or 2 structures at the same time. So cost center and organization is kind of used for core financial reporting. But as closer you come kind of to the real business, when you talk about, give me the list of all your products, just to the definition of what is a product is sometimes really challenging. For example, in an insurance company, is it kind of the insurance letter or is it kind of each item that you have on that one, or is it the group? There are different definitions of what is a product or a service. And then you have your customers and markets and regions. Just the dimensional data to make sure that there are kind of common definitions across the organization is kind of key for all your reporting, especially if FP&A is more than just FP&A, that is kind of other things that you need to work with. And I think that's a collaboration between, I mean, if you're in a small company, maybe it's only the finance people that is working with this data. The rest of the organization is doing real stuff with sales and production and these things. But in a mid-market or enterprise size organization, you need to collaborate with the people working with the master data management.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I am doing something else on the side of these podcasts. We call it basically making FP&A great again. Okay, uh, and I'm interviewing a bunch of finance leaders and FP&A leaders, and that is a theme which comes across consistently. Tejas, our data is a problem. Okay, how it is stored, how it is structured, how it is reconciled, all of that. They're like, it's just a nightmare. And that is why they need to keep bringing it back into Excel, is what they're explaining. They're like, you guys say all these things, but the reality is we need to bring it back in Excel because it doesn't reconcile. I'm like, yeah, but that's where you're putting a band-aid on a wound or a fracture. Basically, you need to fix it at the source. Yeah, for another day. It's always what it is. It's funny. So for somebody who's starting out in FP&A today, right, or somebody who's starting out in FP&A now or is about to start, what is the one skill or certification you would recommend for them?
I mean, everyone needs to know kind of the basics when it comes to the finance stuff, for sure. The balance sheet and the P&L and the cash flow, actual reporting and planning and forecasting, all of this stuff. But that is something that I just expect everyone to know about. I mean, if you want to, again, I'm a data guy. So, I mean, for me, it's about, well, first of all, if you come to a new organization to actually learn the different systems you have in place, the accounting system, understanding that there is kind of, you have what you see on the screen, but behind the scenes, if you're running F&O or BC or SAP, there are kind of the tables behind the scenes, and that is where the data are stored, and you have business logic taking place in all of these kind of systems. But understanding the data you have there and how to look at that data and extract that data and work with that data, I think just learning Power Query in Excel is kind of a first good starting step to understand that you can connect to a lot of different data sources and bring that together. Even if you're running Aimplan or some other tool in the future, it's kind of getting that understanding. I think it's important.
It's a good skill. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, learning basic tech skills are always helpful. I know a lot of heads of FP&A who are heads of FP&A, though they are not even finance people. They are basically tech people who become heads of FP&A. So that's possible as well, right?
Sure.
Any closing thoughts on this conversation today?
I think it's thank you for inviting me. It's great to be able to chat with you and also hear your kind of side of things. And there are a lot of things going around right now, especially with AI and machine learning for sure. And that will evolve a lot the coming years. We see that, and we have a very good kind of idea of what we want to do in our solution, but I think it will change things for sure. Everything that is kind of possible to automate there will be things happening there with the AI agents and these kind of things. So now it's kind of the automated stuff. If you, again, back to your question about if you're a junior starting with FP&A, you should not focus on the things that can be automated, because then you might not have a job next year, but instead actually more understand the business side, how to analyze data and how to kind of give good advice to the business. I think that even with AI, as a human being, you can do some of the analysis that AI will have difficulties to do in the future.
Yeah, well, definitely. I completely agree. Thank you so much, Erik. It was an absolute pleasure having you here. I'm sure people picked up a whole lot of technology stuff on this episode, so I'm sure they will enjoy that a lot. Thanks a lot, and I look forward to collaborating with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Tejas.